Welcome, Arvind. I wanted us to chat with Arvind because he was figuring out AI in the enterprise long before I was, and a lot of us were. Meaning, he started Glean, his company, I think close to 6 years ago, over 6 years ago. And I just want to state for the record, we're not partners with Glean, we're not customers of Glean, not yet. We're starting to share customers, which is interesting because Glean is growing quickly and deploying inside of enterprise, and that's overlapping with some of our enterprise customers. So we're excited ourselves to learn about Glean today. But I really wanted to leverage Arvind's experience in terms of, as I said, sort of what's happening inside the enterprise and how do we get successful deployments of AI, not just Glean, but really more broadly what Arvind's experience has been. And really prior to all this, and I think really set up kind of the origin of Glean, is Arvind worked at Google and really understood, I think, technically how to build so the technology and taxonomies needed to connect data together, which is really what Glean does for the enterprise, and then with an AI layer on top. Not to do your product pitch, though, Arvind. So first of all, where are you joining us from?
Thanks, Greg. Really excited to be here and chatting. I'm calling from Palo Alto, from our office.
Great. Okay, so you and I are pretty much in the same town. And amazing looking in chat. We've got people, Arvind from Paris, from Arizona, Northern Germany, where else? South Florida, London, UK. A lot of Europeans today. Amazing. So thanks for all joining. Okay, listen, let's get into it first by Arvind, if you could explain, but I'll ask you to keep it short, what Glean does, and then I think that'll give all of us here a sense of what you're kind of seeing, and then we'll take the conversation from there in terms of enterprise AI.
Yeah. So think of Glean as the ChatGPT or Google, but inside your company. So we're a very simple product. The product looks and feels just like ChatGPT. Your employees, you go and ask questions in Glean, and we will answer those questions using all of the world's knowledge, just like how ChatGPT does it. But additionally, we'll also use all of your internal private companies' data and knowledge to answer questions for you. And that's the core power of Glean. We connect with all of your enterprise systems like SharePoint, OneDrive, Google Drive, Jira, Confluence, Salesforce, everything, wherever work happens in your company, we connect with all of those systems, understand your data, your knowledge, your people, who works on what. And with that deep understanding of your enterprise, now we're able to actually bring AI in your day-to-day work life. People come ask questions, not just questions. You can actually, AI these days can actually do a lot of work for you. So you can actually ask Glean to do some work for you, and it's going to use all of that company's context to actually do that work for you. And then, so that's the core product that we have. We also are an agent building platform. So as AI transformation takes place in the enterprises, people are thinking about, how do I build an agent to automate, this business process or that business process? And so we are a great platform to actually build those agents, because we're already connected with your systems where work happens. So you can be actually a non-technical person, a business owner, that can still utilize AI to automate some of your work for yourself. So that's just a quick background on the company.
Awesome.
This is maybe just one quick thing, it's interesting, you mentioned that we started working on AI before anybody else. I think we were lucky, we were fortunate that, we started dabbling with transformers 6 years back. We had no idea, what the world today would look like, but it was a good timing for us.
Yeah, sure. You were early for sure. Has so 2 years ago, really, this kind of chatbot interface era, right, really started about two and a half years ago. So has that been helpful or not to you guys in terms of sort of, popularizing the I guess the UI almost, right? The ChatGPT numbers are kind of, I find them mind blowing. Meaning, maybe they're at 500, 600, 700 million users is kind of what maybe Sam Altman let slip at TED last week. How should we think about this, and has it been helpful to you?
Yeah, I mean, ChatGPT has been transformational for us as a company. Before that, I would actually, tell people that, look, we are the Google for your work life, and you should buy us. But we'd really convince people, hard, tell them why it is important for people to find things, at work. So we were that evangelical, play. But then when people saw ChatGPT, everybody's mind switched and they said, like, they said, oh, if I had something like this inside my company, like that would be so wonderful. And that's exactly what we were. So, like, so we sort of, it allowed us to actually uh, like see that, really accelerated demand, for our product. And we no longer have to convince people to actually buy this product anymore.
Got it. Yep. Nice. I wish I was in that position. Or I think that's the founder's dream, right? Entrepreneur's dream. That amount of product market fit. Although, it's taken 6 years. So a good reminder, all the entrepreneurs on on the call with us, it's not easy. It takes longer than you usually think. Are you surprised by those Chat GPT numbers when you think about maybe they hit 1 billion this year? What's your reaction to that? What should we infer from that? What's going on in the world, because of this?
Well, I mean, not surprised now, because I think we're seeing this explosive growth happen over the last 2 years. And the if you think about um, the utility of products like this, these are like, very, very fundamental, like, the fundamental needs, that we have as humans. Like, we constantly have questions and we don't have the patience to wait and, get those answers. Google used to do a fantastic job. That's why Google became the largest company in the world, because it solved that one problem, which is that, like, people have questions and it would actually get them closer to those answers. In Google, like, it would be, well, of course, like, they're not always giving you the answer right away. Like, you have to actually go and maybe click on a few things to get those answers. And ChatGPT made that process even faster. So that's why, like, it's not surprising, like, and they've done a great job, with the brand. And I mean, at this point, like, maybe, technologically, like, there are a lot of other products like that, but I think the mind share that they have, like, it's the gold standard. So
Right.
not,
It's like
not
it's kind
surprising.
of like the Kleenex, right? It's the Kleenex or Xerox or whatever, or Airbnb of the category, at least for now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And my sense of this, Arvind, I'd be curious what you think, is that those numbers are primarily being driven by consumers, small business, side hustlers, everybody else, not large enterprise. And again, that's probably not surprising, but it
Yeah.
feels like progress in medium to large enterprise has been a lot slower.
Yeah.
And that's our experience with our clients, frankly, and the prospects we talk to. Or we talked to a lot of prospects, Arvin, that have deployed already and kind of failed, and seeing
Yeah.
only 3 or 5% levels of adoption of GPT for Enterprise or Microsoft
Yeah.
Copilot, and they're now kind of having to restart and sort of rethink the whole sort of deployment and adoption challenge. Just curious what you're seeing more broadly in kind of enterprise AI, and what's going wrong and what we have to do differently.
Yes. So first, if you think about, these AI models, they've been trained on public data that's on the internet. And so you bring these models into the enterprise, and it doesn't really know anything about your enterprise. And and so that's sort of like, is the first point of failure, that, like, well, look, the model is smart, but if it doesn't know anything about my business, like, how does it really help me? And so we went through this cycle of how do you make this technology work in the enterprise? First, people thought that maybe, well, I'll just, repeat the same technology, like, build it the same way, ChatGPT was built, and I'll train and, build these models inside my enterprise to do it. And it turns out that, like, first of all, you don't have enough data. Like, these models are hungry for data. They need large amounts of information before that intelligence emerges in these
Mhm.
products. And second is that enterprises also realize that, well, like, I live in a completely different world. My data is not publicly available to everyone inside my company. Like every
Right.
document I have, like maybe three
Right.
people in a particular team in the company can access it. So I can't take
Yeah.
all this data and train models. So first, that was the first realization, like, that's actually hard. Enterprise environment is different. The second problem is that, okay, so now, like, at that point, RAG and techniques like those emerged, that, like, well, don't train models, use the same, out of box model, uh, but somehow bring the right enterprise context into it through a search system. And that's what, of course, we also do a lot. The and but with that also, like, there were a lot of problems around, again, permissioning and security, and how do you make sure that AI is delivered in a safe and secure way. to your enterprises, that internal information is not leaking. And then finally, the challenge um, is also is around uh, the people and adoption habits. It's what we've seen is that it's very hard um, for AI to get the same level of adoption in the work setting because people are sort of tied to their habits, if you are an accountant, if you are a paralegal, you have a certain way of doing things, and you're not really that motivated to change it, like change the way how you do that thing. You like sometimes it's like, if you like, even for those who work very hard, like you don't have time to actually relearn a skill, and it takes time away from the work that you need to get done right now. And
Yeah.
that's been a big impediment also in the enterprises, just that awareness and acceptance, for learning new technology.
And
Uh,
being willing to. Do you think anxiety is part of that as well, Arvind? Like when we do a research study twice a year of 5,000 knowledge
mm,
workers, we just finished our
yeah,
kind of March April study. We're about to release the results, but obviously
yeah,
I've seen some of the
yeah.
results so far, and anxiety levels seem high around obviously job loss, job replacement. Do you think that's part of it, or is it just that kind of habit change?
Yeah, I think like in our experience, it's actually a motivator to people, because like people who fear that their job is going to get lost. I think the like I think some of them have the reaction that, okay, I better learn this thing, because I
Right.
also hear people, and it's true, like we're not going to lose, like most of the people are not going to lose jobs to AI. I think they're going to lose jobs to other humans who know how to use AI. That's the thing, that I think, like, and I think it's a phenomena that people understand, and I think, like, and that motivates them to actually try to learn AI more. So it's very much habit. Like, look at my, like, our own company. Like, we're a modern enterprise. We're Gen AI native company. But even in our company, like, we see people still wanting to do things the same way that they used to do before.
Right,
Like,
the old, same way, the old way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to go back, not yet though, to that because I'm not sure I agree anymore with what you just said, but I get it, which is, we won't lose our job to AI, but it's someone using AI. I'm not sure I buy that as much as I used to, but
yeah,
we'll return to it.
yeah,
I want to talk about, and by the way, same at Section, and we're a much smaller company than Glean. And not now, but a year ago, the level of adoption of AI inside of Section was frustrating to me, meaning it wasn't as fast and as much as I wanted. And so, of course, this reminds me of Toby Lutke from Shopify. I'm sure you heard about his memo that was leaked, and then
yeah,
he talked about it. Obviously, he's a mid-sized, public company, as 8,000 employees. He's essentially mandating it. You can't ask for headcount unless you can prove AI can't do the work. And I think AI adoption or usage is going to be in performance reviews now for Shopify employees. Curious if you think is that a how do you think about that as a tactic? Basically, not just be a cheerleader, and frankly, who needs more AI cheerleaders? We already have too many. They're all in my LinkedIn feed, but like not just be a cheerleader, but actually like mandate it and really drive it through kind of real change management sort of and some enforcement of the change management, right? Any thoughts on is that, would you do that if you were running a large company today?
I would absolutely do it, and I think there is maybe a staged, approach to that. Like you first start with, um, like just like bringing the right tools to people inside the company, get them excited, because like if your employee base wants those tools themselves, they're not being forced to it. That's of course the best. That's the best strategy. But I think that unfortunately, like, it doesn't work always, and that's when you have to actually resort to, like, actually, doing, like, for example, what he suggested. I'm like, I would say that, like, I think every company should do it. I would myself like to do it, which is
Yep.
because ultimately, like, I think I guess I also I'm perennially, like, I guess, permanently not satisfied with, the pace of
Dissatisfied.
anything. And so,
Well, that's the makeup of an entrepreneur, Arvind. We both share that, which is the cup is half full. Yes.
exactly. So I think it's a good
Yeah.
strategy. And then I would just add one thing
Yeah.
is the like ultimately, like, just saying that, we're going to enforce it, you have to prove to me that AI can do this or not. Well, you'll see people will come up with ways to tell you that yes, AI cannot do this thing, and they'll be
Right.
right, because
Right.
AI is not perfect. So
Right.
it cannot be, it has to be a carrot and stick approach. Like, you have to bring the right tools to them. You have to have a little bit of groundswell, and it's not hard. Like, like, even like, we were talking about ChatGPT before. ChatGPT is a popular tool in the enterprise, believe it or
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
Like,
for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
people are
Well,
using it. People are using it insecurely, like,
yeah,
letting it go out.
sure.
But
Yeah, the shadow AI. Let's talk about that because it's been on my mind actually. Because we have a few clients where Chat GPT unsanctioned use is as high as the usage of the sanctioned, AI tool. If you're a CEO, would you close down unsanctioned or shadow AI? And if you were prepared to pay for, good AI, Copilot Pro or Glean or whatever it is, if you're prepared to invest in something that's good, would you be, sort of tough on the unsanctioned use?
like, it actually is um, like, it has to be done 100%. I don't think you have a choice.
Right.
Especially if you're a meaningful business, large enterprise, you're looking for trouble,
Hmm.
because this is not about, like, asking a simple, like, putting in a few keywords in Google, because you used to do that all the time. Like, when we work, we actually do ask questions in Google often, and you put a few words, but you're not leaking significant information at that time. But when you think about how people use AI tools, you would say that, hey, like, help me write this, memo better. And this is a memo with, like, tons of sensitive information inside of it. And it's going to be used, and it'll show up in these models in the future in some way or shape or form. And so you can't take that risk. This is actually not a choice. You have to immediately, clamp down, that usage. And I think, just like, see, like, it's hard to do that, like, because, like, these days it's not as if, like, your laptop is fully controlled,
Sure.
and
Yeah,
you
right. And
or
your
like,
phone. Yeah,
and your
yeah,
phone, exactly, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
the solution is not so much clamping down, but just education, like, first making a more secure version of, like, this kind of technology available to your people, and then
Yeah.
telling them to go use that. I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
that's what it takes.
Yeah. Arvind, I want to talk a little bit about data security and enterprise risk but I want you to, sort of correct me or maybe call me naive. My perspective is if you're buying the enterprise version of these products, ChatGPT for enterprise, or obviously Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, or Gemini or Anthropic for Teams, there is not data leakage from those products or Glean. And I tend to find executive teams, CEOs, even CTOs, quite frankly, I feel pretty misinformed around the level of risk that exists around leakage of data within the enterprise version of these AI products. So
Yeah.
am I right? Like, are these products locked down? Is your product locked down? Is
Yeah.
GPT Enterprise locked down?
Yeah, so our product, and Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, these are lockdown products. I think ChatGPT Enterprise also gives you, like, like most of the security that you need. I mean, there may be a little bit, like, not as tight as maybe
Right.
Azure Copilot.
Sure. Right.
I don't know for sure. Like, I don't
Yeah.
have the full details here. But ours is, for example, fully locked down. We give you the guarantee that none of your data is
Yeah.
ever to be used in any training outside of your company.
Right.
But remember that risk, when you talk about security and risk, there is the external risk, which is that, hey, is my information leaving my company? But
Hmm.
there's also internal risk,
Right. Right.
is that the if you took your internal information and brought it into these AI tools in some shape or form, and if you're not actually trying to understand that, look, within the company we have sensitive information, there is some information that only the finance team should be able to see, some information that only
Right.
this
Sure.
executive staff can see. You have to sort of like make sure that inside the company also you're not suddenly like you put everything into this AI system and expose it to everybody inside the company. So that's actually the bigger consideration these days on people's mind, because mostly like folks have actually comforted themselves that, okay, look, if I get the enterprise version of these technologies, then I'm
Right.
safe from external
Got it.
risk. But
Yeah.
internal risk is actually very much a blocker right now. It's actually one of the
Well,
biggest reasons for
right.
slowdown. Yeah.
Because that's like a rights and privileges kind of exercise, and it's not easy, right? And to maintain
Yeah.
kind of access and segmented access. That makes sense. I want to talk a little bit more about uh, I guess basically hallucinations or reliability, and because I do think that we talk a lot about them. The AI critics are always posting, guys like Gary Marcus and incredibly stupid things that AI does. I call AI sort of Arvin a tale of two AIs, a genius and a clown. Which one is showing up? But it seems like this is an impediment to adoption as well, because it's not as reliable as my ERP or my CRM or whatever. Again, curious your point of view on that, and is it getting better? And can we expect to get to maybe not 100% reliability, but certainly as good as the next available human when it comes to reliability? Is perhaps the right standard for AI? I don't know. Just I'd like you to talk about again in the context of enterprise, especially large enterprise, where I think that
Yeah.
expectation of reliability is much higher than maybe an entrepreneur or a consumer.
Yeah. So like first things first, things are getting better in terms of accuracy, reliability, hallucinations. And there are two parts, like, which is, two parts to that, like, why things are getting better. Number one is just the core model technology, like they're getting better at reasoning. But number two is the rest of the infrastructure around them. Like, when you make AI work in the enterprise, model is only one part of your overall technology stack. You have a search stack side by side. When somebody comes and gives you a task or asks a question, you actually use these retrieval stack search technologies to assemble the right pieces of information, and then you make models work on it. Like that's typically the architecture of like any AI application inside the enterprise. Now, when you think about that, the a lot of like why you would get wrong answers in AI systems is because, well, you actually didn't even give it the right information to work on, or you may not even have the right information documented inside your company. So there are a lot of challenges on that front, which people are also trying to solve. Like, that's the core of like what we do, but there's a lot of advances in that. But with that said, like what is like what like where are we today? How much can AI be trusted to actually replace us, and what's the right standard? So first of all, I don't believe the right standard for AI is to be as good as a human. That's not actually. I think sometimes the AI vendors, like like maybe even people from our team make that that judgment
Sure.
that, well,
That's
like
the claim. So
yeah.
you think it should be higher? You think we should be having higher standards?
The bar for the machine is always higher.
Okay.
Machines are supposed to be perfect.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that's the right way to think about it. Otherwise, you'll be happy with a where you could actually improve your technology. So the bar has to be higher. And then how do you actually get there? So one of the things which I like, one technique that people use these days, like especially when you are in a conversational question answering, knowledge seeking kind of mode, is that when you ask questions in AI and AI answers it back, well, like take the work of the model, but then do something with it again. Like what information you supplied to it. So make sure that every line of response that's coming back from the AI models, that you can fact check, that you can actually tie it back to authoritative human generated information. And so there's a lot of technology that has gotten built in that area. We do a lot of that, and that allows people to feel more confidence, and
Mhm.
also like do work in a way where AI AI is actually giving the answer, and you don't sort of build the habit of just blindly trusting it, but you actually can do the full research. You can see that the paper trail, like where the data and information is coming from. So I think just coming back to it, I think the AI systems are getting better. They're getting useful, but human human in the loop is still the right approach. I mean, the technology right now is still at the level where is best that for most use cases that you're going to actually have the human verify what AI what AI
So,
is doing.
yeah. So what do you say, Arvind, then to a CEO says, or a buyer, a potential buyer, VP, whatever, hey, well, I'm going to wait. If it's all getting better, the security's gotten better and the reliability is going to get better. Why don't I just kind of sit this out for a year or two,
Yeah.
avoid the hype and read the Gartner, report once a year and kind of check in a couple of years when things are settled down and kind of make my move then.
Yeah.
What's your, how would you, what do you say to that CEO?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the wrong approach without any um, doubts in my mind. It's actually not the right approach, no matter what company you represent. Because this is such a fundamental shift in technology, and you have two goals right now. Like your goal, like first, don't even think of your goal as being that I'm going to actually improve my bottom line or my top line. I'm going to get some wins from AI. First thing is, you got to make sure, like, look forward 3 years, and see whether you even have the right workforce, that you need in that new world, uh, where AI is going to be pervasive, is going to be doing a lot of work that we are used to doing ourselves today. So you have to actually get your team educated today. You have to expose them to AI technologies, regardless of how much value it is adding to you. So that's my take. Like, education is super important. I mean, of course, you know all about it. So the
Sure.
but that's
But
number
but Arvind,
one.
but let's stop there for a second. I mean, I don't disagree, but you know what's going on. The CFO is like, "Where's the ROI?" So you mentioned business case. You mentioned business case, so we got to go there, right? Because the CFO is like, "Well, where's the ROI?" And as you probably know and see, we see a lot of prospects who are telling us, "Well, we're going to only provide the best AI, the paid AI, right? I mean, maybe Copilot Pro, for a few employees, and there's some process we use to kind of vet
Yeah.
or select or something like this, right? And everybody else gets the free version or
Yeah.
so it's going to maybe help them summarize an email or two,
Yeah.
like and the rationale is simple. It's $30 a month, maybe with discounts it's $20 a month if they negotiate a multi-year deal, but still real money. You get 10,000 employees, you add it up, right? It might be unplanned in the IT budget. Again, what's your take? And are
Yeah.
you what do you say to a CEO? Hey, just eat the cost and you will get the
Yeah.
gain, but the gain is unclear.
Yeah.
Like
It's a great question. And so while education is important and you have to do it, well, I mean, like, it's sometimes you may have the money, but most of the times you won't even have the money. Like, where is it going to come from? Right. So
right.
you do have to, that is the, so you do have to focus on ROI. And but I think AI isn't actually is quite powerful, and it's actually showing that ROI. So I'll give you some examples. You can take, like in customer service, like, which is a big cost center for many companies. You can actually take AI to be the first responder for any ticket that's filed from your internal teams, from your customers. AI can easily go and, take care of half of those tickets for you, if not more. We have a large enterprise, they have 100,000 customer care agents, and after rolling out Glean as the first line of defense, in terms of when tickets get filed, they're seeing 42% improvement in case resolution time. Like, that's hundreds of millions of dollars of savings. It actually allowed them to increase capacity, of each agent, and as a result, like, those that savings that are coming in, they're able to now deploy that to actually, in fact, train, some of their other staff within the company. So
Mhm.
so there are like lots of like engineering. You see how people can write code twice as fast, like, with the code gen, the new code gen IDEs. Salespeople, like, you can actually really reduce the cost of customer acquisition. How you prospect. There are like AI can actually do 90% of the work of prospecting for you. So the efficiencies are there across every department. One interesting one that I want to mention also is legal teams. Like, we have to constantly work with third party contracts, try to make them conform to like our standard. and these are like, get like 100 pages documents, and it takes 2 weeks for, a legal, like, paralegal to actually go and redline that contract. And now you can have AI do that work for them. And like, well, you'll still review the work of AI, but that 2 week process, shrinks down to a less than a day. Um,
Mhm.
our salespeople responding to RFPs with, with 400 questions, like, which are all boilerplate. You can again, like, so you see these, like,
Yeah.
real, efficiencies. So it's not that hard. Like, you will, like, you come with, as a CIO, as a CEO, you create your AI strategy. You pick, 5 costly business processes where you want efficiencies, and you will see that within a year, like, it's good, you're going to be ROI positive on AI.
Yeah. All right. I buy it. Let me just double click though on or double down on okay, but what about the CEO says, I want to just deploy an LLM to everybody. I want to, enterprise grade, enterprise safe, and train them and, get the change management working, hopefully. But I'm not going to pick specific use cases yet. I'm just going to give everybody access to a great LLM and let it rip. Are you confident that CEO will get some sort of productivity gain across the organization that will pay for that?
Yes, it's hard to measure, but there is no doubt that you're going to see those
Yeah.
efficiency gains. We
Okay.
have
I know. Hard to measure is kind of a big, I agree. It's a tough one though, right? At least if you're capital constrained, if you're in a mature industry, if you're growing, right, it's easier, right? If you got a great if you got a high gross margin business and things like that, certain environments where it's going to be easier to justify that expense and kind of bet on the outcome, right? Bet on the productivity increase, but not, maybe not for others,
Yeah. Well, just like, just to add to that, so our product, which is like, the chat GPT, as I said,
Yep.
if you give, or if you give chat GPT to your employees, one way people try to do ROI analysis on that is by doing surveys. You just ask your employees after
Hmm.
you deploy it, after you let them use it. You can also like look at their
Yeah.
use. And what we've seen people come and say is that typically with these AI-based chat assistants,
Hmm.
employees claim that they're saving about 3 to 5 hours of time every week. That's
That's
10%.
what your clients are seeing in those
Yeah.
self-reported surveys.
Yeah, and these are self-reported,
Yeah,
surveys
still
that
it's pretty
our
it's pretty
customers
good,
do.
right?
Yeah.
Hopefully if you're the CFO, hopefully they turn that time into work versus walk the dog, right? But
Or get, yeah, I spend more time getting the coffee, but
yeah,
the
right.
that's true. So that's what I meant by it's fuzzy. Like, and
Yeah,
like, when somebody's saying is saving me 3 to 5 hours, is that they're making it up in some ways. Like, is
yeah,
there sort
sure.
of feeling, right? They're not measuring it.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but it actually, tells you the high level that you look, this
Yeah.
is
No,
a.
I buy that, Arvind. I call that vibe ROI, but I think it's real enough, probably, right? Meaning it is,
Yeah.
or at least your worker thinks, hey, I saved that amount of
But
time.
but
No,
half of our enterprise customers, they're not happy with it. They don't buy that.
right.
The
They
CFO
want
doesn't buy
more. They want more.
the CFO needs
Yeah,
to see, well, like, okay, so like if they're more productive, then am I seeing a reduced headcount projection for next year, or am I
right.
seeing some cuts? Like, tell me, like, does the rubber meet the road, right? So you have to. That's what I'm saying. That the right strategy has to include both elements. You give a great tool to people, you get them,
Yeah.
versed and educated on AI, but you got to actually pick, 5 or 10 specific,
Use
areas
cases.
where
Right.
you actually, like, measure hard ROI.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, Arvin, I think about it as big tech is selling human augmentation. CFOs are often, I think, buying, human replacement or at least diminished headcount requests. I mean, that is the reality here. Jobs will be lost. I wake up every morning and I probably read too much and follow too much, right? Of all these AI pundits, and so on my mind this week, usually Gary Marcus on the AI critic side, and on the AI. I don't know if he's an optimist, but Mo Gadat, someone I really enjoy listening and talking to him, and I think we're interviewing Mo in the next month. most talking about knowledge work as we do it now going away in 5 years, and he's using that time frame. And he's a thoughtful, guy that I think has pretty good access to understanding the capabilities and how they're evolving. And of course, Gary Marcus thinks AI is a clown and near useless. Where are you on this spectrum? What pace is this moving? And I don't want to talk about AGI because I think AGI is bullshit. I want to talk about it as it relates to work, right? How fast is this moving into the workforce in a significant way? Are you more like Mo, whereas in 5 years we're going to have fundamental changes to the workforce, and I think a significant job loss, or where are you on that continuum, Arvind?
Well, I'm with neither one of them in some ways.
Okay.
I don't think there's going to be big job loss, because humans are actually pretty good at finding new work for them, and we've done it continuously. We've gone through all these technology trends, whether it's the calculator or the internet or the social or mobile or SaaS or cloud, whatnot. Like we've always figured out how to keep ourselves busy, and work keeps increasing, and we keep building great new things. So, and AI is going to be no different. It's not going to actually really fundamentally change the notion of that, people do work. I mean, there's this vision, like, sometimes that people have that, like, look, we're all going to be on the beach,
Right, right. Getting our UBI check and writing poetry. Yeah, right. Yeah.
the AI is doing all the work behind the scenes, but
Right.
I don't think that's an exciting world to be in anyway. But so I think we'll all be there, and we'll all be doing a lot of knowledge work actually. But I think we're going to be doing it very differently, and a lot of things that we do, that we think of knowledge work today, is not is work that's actually going to be done for us. In fact, the like what I think is, and I give this analogy to a lot of people. The think of a like your CEO, Greg, and look at this amazing team of people around you. You got your assistants, you have a chief of staff, you got an executive team, you may even have a coach. Do you have a coach?
Well, my wife is an executive coach, so she's my
I
she's my
see.
free coach. Yes,
So,
yeah.
and is this team around you? Is the team around you that's actually really allowing you to make that multiplier impact, on the company?
Mhm.
You're getting a lot of things done. Contrast that with somebody who joins your company, from college, like new grad.
Mhm.
Got none of that. They got no
Right.
assistance, got no coaches. But the future is going to be different. Like regardless of who you are, how junior you are, like how new in the workforce, you're gonna have an amazing team around you. Team of assistants, coworkers, coaches, uh, and this team is going to really deeply understand you as a human. It's going to understand your work, your goals, what you need to do today, and it's going to be proactive in helping you with all of that. And it's going to take hopefully 90% of your work for you, and do it for you. And I think that's the world we're going to be living in. And that team, of course, is not going to be a team of humans. That's going to be a team of AI powered agents.
Yeah.
That's our vision. Like we also we want to be that team. But that's the idea. Like that we are going to be in that new world where a lot of these things which are tedious, time consuming, like this knowledge work, AI can actually do it very, very well for us. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I mean, I love the optimism of that, and I don't disagree, Arvin. And as a Canadian, which in America means I'm a socialist, I love the fact that we would, particularly younger people, have access to you're right, to a coach, right, to a a mentor, a
yeah.
medical second opinion, obviously, but when you think about it from a career perspective, this idea of a younger person joining a company and getting kind of access to the kind of resources that you're right, the CEO or the C-suite might have access to.
And by the way, it's happening. By the way,
That
it's
to me is
happening.
pretty exciting.
So and these are like, this is not a far-fetched vision. Like a
Right.
lot of the components of this is actually, they're actually happening today. For
Yeah.
example, the one of our customers, they built this sales coach. And so as soon as I do, like if I'm a salesperson, I finish a call with the customer, and then like the recording is
Mhm.
available, the transcript is available, and there's a lot of context on the customer, on like what the opportunity was. That's in Salesforce and a few other places.
Yeah.
Now, In the past, like, we used to have, this enablement team where, we have humans who are actually painfully reviewing, like, that 35
Right.
minute, 1 minute call.
Watching the sales call, doing a
And
sales training intervention, human intervention, right?
exactly, and taking
Expensive
notes,
and slow.
yeah.
Yeah.
And now you have this AI coach, and it's personal. And the salesperson actually feels very good because they're not actually being judged by a human right now.
Right. Right.
It's
Yeah.
their own personal coach, and and it tells you that, like, look, you're not making eye contact. It actually told me that I actually never make eye contact. So
But
so
you've done, hey, that coach works because you've done well today on the eye contact.
yeah.
Yeah. And just even your last comment there, right? That it could be better coming from an AI versus for the person to receive it, than a human in that, less
Feels
awkwardly.
safer. Yeah, it feels
Yeah,
safer. It
feel
feels more
safer.
private.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great insight. There'll be some unintended upside here. There'll be lots of unintended downside. I think there'll be lots of unintended upside as well. Thanks for joining us, all of us, and thanks Arvind for joining us, obviously.
Thank you for having me. Really enjoyed it.